guys, Matt from Australian Pipe Lining Supplies. Just going to do a bit of a patch demonstration setup for you guys today, because I think there's a bit of a grey area in the existing DVD that we've got. So I just want to try and cover a few more angles and go through a bit of the installation and different types of packers and things like that, how to treat your packer. You've really got to be careful with your bendy packers, because they are a rubber product and they do stretch over time, so you really got to take care of it. And the number one thing that kills packers more than anything is when it comes in contact with resin. So to avoid that, it always helps to give it a good coat of a silicone spray. Don't use petroleum-based sprays, because it's our experience that petroleum-based sprays on your packer actually absorbs into the rubber, and once that happens, then you get resin contact with your rubber, which shortens the life of your packer. So after every patch that we do, and I train guys to do the same thing, just literally get a silicone spray and just coat your packer. And what this will do is it'll obviously give the rubber a nice coating, but it prevents things like cracking and just the rubber drying out. Get your packer tube. Now, you would have all been given your kit. It's basically a plastic product. Resin won't stick to this product, okay? So we use this every time we patch. It's your prerogative if you want or not, but I suggest you do, because as we already said, you know, the number one thing that will kill your packer is when resin gets in contact with it, and this will prevent that. So it will tear. It's not designed to contain your packer, but it's designed to protect it and stop whatever rubber dust, for example. Like now, if you use a packer, I'm just going to slide this straight in there. Couple of elastic bands. Just fold it neatly. And that way it's pretty much ready to go for when you're ready to do your next patch. So you just stick it now in your, store it wherever you store it, preferably in, I would say, a bit of 4-inch pipe or something like that, just so it's nice and steady there. And now no dust can't get on it, and it's got a nice coating on there, so it's a good way to maintain it. Okay, so we've got a bit of pipe that we've sort of set up to kind of emulate a pipe in the ground. Look, I mean, let's be honest, it's never good. A bit of pipe that I'm putting a patch through here is always going to be a lot easier than anything on site, but it gives you an idea of how you can set everything up and apply it and use your camera and that sort of stuff. So you can see here I've drilled a couple of holes in it. Obviously you're not going to have the luxury of being able to see this when it's in the ground, but I'm hoping you get the picture just through how we actually do that installation. So basically every job's different, and you really need to be good on your camera. You've got to figure out exactly what it is, especially when you come to things like measuring. So we measure everything off our little rigid camera. It doesn't need to be rigid. We like these because they're small. And they've got a good vision scope on it, but I mean, you guys can be discerning when it comes to that yourselves. So we would have our liner the size according to whatever the patch is. Now, typically with these smaller packers here, we'll try and get as much lining on it as we can, because we can. And if you can cover if you're doing a bend, for example, then why not cover both collars, you know? If you're doing a straight bit of pipe, you may as well get as much liner in there as you can. The way that the resin's set up is one of these little guys here is a 1 metre, 100 mil liner. It's enough resin to do that piece. So it's 2-part, you mix it, shake it up, pour it on your 1 metre of liner or whatever length it is for your packer. I think these little packers here are about 850 roughly. But yeah, you basically measure, we've measured them into these quantities to save you guys how to do the maths, basically, because it can get a little confusing when you start talking ratios, blah blah blah. The 150 mil ones, I haven't got any here, they're a little bit bigger, same thing though, 2-part, they're designed for 1 metre of 150 mil liner. Your liner itself, you get it like this. It's got a plastic coating on the outside, and then on the inside is the fabric. Okay, so what you need to, the reason it comes like that is because it can't get dirty like that, so you haven't got to worry about it all getting stained up. What you need to do, of course, is invert that liner to the whatever length you cut. You just literally put your hand in there and pull it out like so. This one we did a little bit earlier. Here's one I prepared earlier. Okay, so that there's been cut to size, and it is, how big is it? Yeah, okay, so that one's 850. Okay, so but guys, different packers again, different size liners, whatever. I'm going to do a video in a minute as well with the special Gully multiple bend packer, slightly different application. So if you're not sure, just pick up the phone and call us, because we'd rather you got it right than, you know, tried to whack something in that was the wrong application, and then, you know, who knows what will happen. Okay, so we've got our pipe here. It's clearly got some issues. So what we need to do is, so we need to measure the distance of the patch that we need to put in, and the way that we measure all of our liners is off our camera, and it's as simple as having your camera in the line there, and you can see off your camera there, you know, that okay, right here is my break, so I know that my patch needs to be start at least there, and then as I pull it back, so I will mark that now with my finger on the reel. And as I pull that back, I know that I also need my liner to be that long. So I know that my liner has got to be at least that long. Okay. Obviously, in a straight bit of pipe, you don't have any restrictions, so you can put a full piece of liner on as long as it's long enough to cover, long enough on your packet, which it is well and truly. So with this one here, we're just going to put that full piece of liner on, and we know we're going to be okay. Okay, now we typically, where we can, especially if you're doing a bend, we'll always mark the centre of the liner, and it's easy enough to do, is fold it in half and put a mark on it. All this does really is gives you like a bit of a bearing when it's in the pipe, because it's sometimes a little bit disorientating off your camera to recognise where the actual centre is. And if you're in a bend and you've got your camera coming down at it, you'll see that black line on the bend, whereas if you didn't have it there, you wouldn't be really sure exactly where centre of your packer is. So anyway, that's that. Plastic protection sheet. Always roll it out a little bit longer than your packer. So this is a brand new packer. I'm not going to use one today because I don't want to run the risk of getting resin on the end, so I'll use one that I've been using for a while. Exactly the same packer. Always want to have a rope on the back of your packer, no matter what. You don't want to have to rely on your air line to retrieve your packer. So always tie a rope on the eyelet. Where we can, especially if we're going around bends, we'll always try and pull our packer into position. It just makes life a lot easier if you can be pulling it, and if you can push it as well with push rods, but typically we do try and pull them in wherever we can. So in your pack you've got a little regulator, which is basically your inflation device. It's real simple. You've got an on and off on the top. Air comes in through there. There's a little arrow on the outlet which gives you direction, but if you put air from your compressor into there, it won't blow up properly, and it's a pretty simple mistake to make. So yeah, anyway, air comes in from there. So we've got two hoses, 30 metres in total, one there with a male and a female. And then this one here with two males. So that is the one that will come from your compressor. And it goes to your gauge. And this one here is what will go from your gauge into your packer, okay, or your push rod. Always connect your gauge into your short hose first. If you don't, if you connect your short hose into the compressor first, it'll drain your compressor, it'll make a hell of a noise, the hose will fly around. I've done it completely. Okay, so that's in now, it's connected. That's wound out, so there's no air to put air in. Basically, turn it clockwise. Okay. Alright, so we're pretty much ready to go. You're going to need some elastic bands because you've got to fasten the liner onto your packer. We don't need tape, we need some gloves. It can help, guys, if you're doing this too, to have two guys, especially when it comes to wetting out your liner, fastening it with elastic bands. Gets a little bit tricky on your own. We'll give it a crack. So yeah, anyway, as I've said, I know off my mark on my liner, centre of my liner there, that I roughly want that mark, you know, sort of at the beginning of this first hole here. So I know that if that's the case, then that whole break's going to be covered. Okay, so areas where you've got to be careful, or where you've got parts of pipe missing or junctions and stuff like that, you've got to be really precise with your measurement in there. Just call in about that stuff. I'll give you a few tips or some sheets that we've drawn up on where to contain your packer, where not to, and you've just got to be careful of that, because that's another thing that could blow your packer up if it's not contained by pipe or calibration tube, which is a PVC product which is designed not to stretch. So that will actually hold your packer, it won't allow your packer to grow beyond its capabilities. In pipe you don't need it, because it's already, the pipe's doing that job for you. But if you were going over a junction or something like that, then it would be a good idea to prevent your packer from running the risk of bulging up into that junction there. So, okay, we're pretty much ready to go. Got my resin. Just with the resin too, like, different resins do different jobs, have different curing times, different qualities, different types, blah blah blah. Keep it cool if you can. The optimal temperature for this resin is 15 degrees.